you is, or tell you about chives is, if I were to choose one herb to keep in my garden, I would choose chives. They're so easy. You use them almost always fresh. And when I use them, I don't chop them. You don't even need to chop them. I just use the scissors and I cut them like this, right into the pan. And if it has just rained, you don't even need to wash them. Alright, so I've got all of my ingredients in here and I'm going to stir it up. And then taste it for salt and pepper. Perfect. It's really delicious. It's creamy. It's I don't know, got that little bit of oniony flavor, the faintest bit of garlic, good amount of pepper. It's quite good. You can make a meal out of that on its own. So I'm going to, let's see, I spread it in a pan, and then I wrap it in plastic wrap and refrigerate it. And what it does is it congeals almost like a bar, and then from that you'll cut the rounds. I'll show you later. This is the pan I'm going to spread my polenta in, and I just spread it as thin as it'll go with the amount of polenta I had, and then I'm going to put it in the refrigerator. So we're approaching the midway point right now in terms of preparation for ingredients. We have got to prepare the garnish, and the garnish is some root vegetables. And in the French laundry cookbook, what you would be doing is using a little baller like this, and you would take a beet, and you'd be balling little balls of beet out, and you'd be taking a knife and making little batons out of the celery root. But we're not going to go that way today. We're going to keep it simple, and we're going to just dice these in, fairly, maybe like a half-inch square dice. Dice these in half-inch square dice. And then I've got some garlic here, about 8 cloves of garlic. And then what you're going to do is cook each separately in water until they're soft. And then you will assemble them and add sauce to them and pile it on top of this at the end. So I'm going to go ahead and dice this stuff and then cook it. I've diced my beets and my celery roots into about half-inch dice here, and you can see. And now the next step is to cook them separately, because if you cook the beets and the celery root together, you'll get pink celery root. This way we can keep the beets red and then the celery root white, and then we mix them together with the garlic. At the very end, it's more of an assembly rather than a blending. So I'm going to go ahead first and cook the celery root in a little salted water. You don't even have to put a lot of water, just put it in a pan with some water and bring it to a boil and let it boil for really no more than like 3-4 minutes. And then we'll take out the celery root and we'll do the same thing to the beets. Now, in the world of Thomas Keller, there are certain things that drive me crazy. And they drive me crazy not because they're so involved, but they drive me crazy because they're like really anal things that are really, really good. So I'm going to make what he calls beurre monté, which is, I'm not exactly sure what that means. I think it means melted butter. But not that I want to melt my butter, but it's a way to keep the butter is an emulsification of water, milk solids, and fats, and in solid form it's all together. But when you melt it, it separates into water, fat, and milk solids. But if you put a little water in a pan and then start whiskking the solid butter into that water, you get this beurre monté, which is an emulsification, meaning that it's a liquid form wherein the milk solids, the fat, and the water do not separate. And If it didn't make all the difference in the world, I wouldn't be doing it. But it really does. And what you use it for is to glaze the vegetables and to add it to the reduced sauce right before you serve the dish. So I'm done with my beurre monte, and if you can see, it's really like this beautiful yellow color. It's not like regular melted butter. It's all it's sort of a uniform, kind of a glossy sauce. And if it was just melted butter, it would be slightly clear, or so you can see how it looks, and it really forms a beautiful, beautiful sauce when you mix it in with the reduction. So now I'm going to make one. I've got my cutter right here, and if you don't have one of these cutters, and most people don't, you can cut the veal into large squares like this. In fact, maybe I'll go ahead and do that so that I don't waste any. If I use a circle, I'll waste some. So I'm going to cut it into these large squares like this. Then I use this mustard, this Veal, M-A-I-L-L-E. I think it's the best mustard. It's mild as far as Dijon goes. And I brush one side, and then I use the best breadcrumbs in the world, which are panko, right here. Panko or Japanese breadcrumbs I use for tempura. And then I bread one side here. Brush the other. Bread it. And then saute it in some peanut oil. Then I'm going to do the same thing with the polenta. I'm going to cut squares. Let's see. About the same size squares. And I'm going to saute the polenta by dipping it in a little breadcrumb as well. Like that. So I finished my sauce off with some chives here. I've got this, this is the reduction I've got these chives going into. And I just use my scissors. Scissor in some chives. Add a little of my beurre monte into the sauce, into the reduction. Mix it up. Pour a little bit on a plate. Put the polenta. Then the meat. And then I've got my root vegetables, and I just put them on. I can put them directly into my beurre monte. And then I just put them over the top. And that's the dish.